Be bold. Be brave. Be extraordinary. Be vulnerable. Be real. Be curious. Be true. Be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Katherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Katherine McIntosh.
Hello and welcome to today's show. I'm super excited to be here with all of you. And so today's topic is a little bit of an adventure. And, the point is to really look at the power of your energy. And I'm going to tell some stories, kind of share some journeys from my life. And if this speaks to you and you would like to call in live and ask a question because you are just in a journey where maybe you need some more clarity, maybe you'd like some just additional contribution, you can call in at 202-570-7057 and we'll be happy to help. But today, I'm going to tell a little story. So last week, I've been in probably a journey of my own evolution pretty deeply for a long time, but I just am one of those people who loves to evolve, who loves to work on herself, and not from the idea that something's wrong, but from this idea of like, oh my gosh, I get to try to see what this creates in my life. I get to try new things. And so I'm kind of an evolution junkie. And just by nature, one of my spirit animals is the snake. And a snake is one of those animals that will shed its skin anywhere from 3, I believe it's up to 17 times a year. I read that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. One animal in 1 year can shed their skin that many times. And I was like, well, that kind of suits my personality and who I am. And when a snake is shedding its skin, like it's literally growing a brand new body and letting go of the old. And in that process, it begins to lose its vision. And so I'll go through periods in my life where my vision gets quite blurry. And I know when that's happening that something's changing. Or I get really sensitive to sound. And I know that when that's happening, it means that I'm changing. And it takes these moments to recognize it. So last week, I am I went to uh, a doctor, an osteopath, and it was just this incredible experience, because he's really intuitive and an incredible being. And yeah, shout out to Dr. John Hughes in Aspen. And so he also wrote this really cool book called, I believe it's, shoot, I don't have it on me. It's either like The Fifth Dimension or The Fifth World. It's really cool. I just opened it, so I'm not very far in, but the point is I went to him for a session, and it wasn't that anything was wrong. It was just like, I know I'm going through a huge shift. And it happened that day. The last 3 days prior to seeing him, I was quite lethargic and pretty exhausted and tired. Like even walking was like, wow, this feels like way too much energy output. I can't even go for a walk. And, my initial thing was like, oh, something must be wrong with me. And so we end up having this really incredible session together. I always look at anything with someone else is a co-creative experience. So whether it's a coaching or a private session or even a dinner, it's always a co-collaboration, an interactive experience in which we both get to grow and evolve. And so he's working on me, and we're working with 8-year-old Katherine who was experiencing some wounds, and 17-year-old Katherine who had experienced some wounds, and 15-year-old Katherine. And all of a sudden, I got this awareness as he's working on me, and all these things are happening in my body, and I can tell because I'm really kinesthetically aware. So if I feel like my heart opening, I can feel it right away. I can sometimes see light coming in. It's just sort of part of being who I am and trusting that on my own journey. And I think sometimes we forget to trust what we know and to trust the sounds and the colors and the information and the dreams that are occurring in our lives. And we're like, oh, let me take it to the expert. But I got newsflash. I mean, I might be a world class energy intuitive, but and yes, I can be sometimes an expert at translating energies. But but that doesn't mean that my expertise should ever replace your own knowing for your life and for where you are and for who you are and for what you do. And so I'm on the table and I just have this giant aha. Because we were looking at, how do I open my heart even more? How do I let in even more? And where I'm at in my journey, I've let in the wrong people. And it's not necessarily that they were wrong, but this aha that came through that I've never looked at before was, oh my gosh, the people that I let, I'm going to say, be my predators. So the people who abused me, who took advantage of me, who caused a lot of trauma in my life and perhaps a little drama along the way, they were all people that I trusted. So whether it was family or a marriage or a long-term relationship or a best friend, and it kind of hit me in this really big way. It actually almost brings tears to my eyes. The people in my life who I allowed to cause the most damage in my life were the people I loved the most. Just gonna let you take that in for a second. And so think about it this way, that that it wasn't, how do I say this? It was this really big awakening for me in that moment because I went, oh my God, I have allowed into my life people that I made it okay that they took advantage of me. And I apologize for any background noise if you can hear it. They took advantage of me. They abused me. They might have violated me. They, stole from me. And it was like, wow, it wasn't strangers. It wasn't the trauma of, anything except for people that were closest to me. And then I went, wow, my experience of what I allowed into my life, and then really loud and clear, this message came to me the morning of that session in my dreams. And it was, I don't remember what it was. It said something like, you don't have a blank problem. You have, it's about receiving. Like you haven't allowed yourself to receive. And what I interpreted that to mean, and what I sort of looked at it as, like, wow, I have received people into my life because it was comfortable, because it was familiar, that were not the best people for me. And so it's not their fault. Guess what? We're the common denominator of everything that happens in our lives. So it was my fault, and not right, not wrong, not good, not bad. Just wow. And so, how do I change that? Well, I need to step up who and what I'm willing to receive in my life. And mind you, I've been doing that for the last several years and really my whole life. It's like, okay, keep keep amping up, but I didn't recognize the pattern until it hit me in, being on his table in the middle of this experience. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to work on my receiving. And if I want to open my heart, if I want to be a better vessel for good in this world, if I want to be a better parent to my son, if I want to be a better person to my mission and to what I'm here to do, then I better change who and what I'm willing to receive. And I've known this for a while, but it didn't hit me hard until I realized that all of my trauma has come from who I let in my life. And who I let in my life was based on how I thought about myself. Does this make sense to anyone else listening? It's like, wow. And so if you look around in your world and you're not in love with your life, you might need to ask yourself this question of, what am I willing to receive? Who am I willing to receive from? Do I need to start asking for a bigger life? And do I need to think better about myself in order to begin to receive that those people can come in, that those experiences can happen? And so part of this is that your energy and what you think about yourself will determine the life that you're able to live. And so if you're not happy with where you are at currently, guess what? Good news. You're the common denominator. You get to change it. You get to do different. Is this an aha? It's like, hello, surprise universe. And so, how do you change yourself is twofold. Is one, I think there's this sort of misconception in normal, I don't know, everyday conversation that something's wrong with us. And I kind of tend to think that the only thing that's wrong with us is that we think that something's wrong with us. We think we need to fix and change. Now, I'm an evolution junkie. And so there's this energy of, wow, it's really fun for me to enjoy the process of evolving. Very different than there's something wrong with me and I need to fix myself. Two very different. They both might get us somewhere to the same place, but the journey in the process of getting there is going to be two extremely different scenarios. And so if you adopt this idea and this principle that nothing is wrong with you, then it's like, well, what do you want to create? What do you want to do? Who do you want to play with? And you just have to ask yourself, are the people that you're choosing to surround yourself with, do they make you feel good about yourself even when they're not saying anything? Do you like their company? Are you happier about who you are in their presence, or are you happier about who you are alone? And so this last year, for the first time ever, I intentionally spent a lot of time alone, a lot of time alone. And it was the first time in my life that I kind of intentionally went on this journey to see inside myself of what my values are. Who am I? What's important to me? And so if you're listening and this resonates, I encourage you not to be lonely, but to spend some time by yourself to get to know yourself even more, to cultivate your own awarenesses, to cultivate and take time with, what do you value? What's important to you? What's special about you? And here's a little thing with people who are intuitive or sensitive or awake or aware is sometimes they tend to not be clear about what their energy is. And so let's say someone says, "Let's go to the beach." And you're like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And then you get there and you're like, "Wow, I kind of would have preferred, hiking up a mountain." Or, motorcycles at sunset or, and so if you're an adventurer and you're intuitive and you're a people pleaser, you will tend to think that the things that you're saying yes to are for you. But when you distill it down, you'll start to recognize that the things that really you want to say yes to are absent of making sure anyone else is happy. And so when you begin to receive this idea that you can have anything you want, you will begin to ask for what you want. But here's the deal. Here's a step before asking for what you want. Most intuitives, sensitives, energy workers, right? They have a hard time asking for help. And I definitely am in that category, right? When things go wrong with me, and it's not that it's gone wrong, it's just I need some time to recalibrate. I tend to sort of be by myself, and that's not a bad thing, right? Because when I wasn't with myself and I needed to like get whatever was going on with me out, then all of a sudden I have all these other opinions and in good intention, they want to help, but then I was losing myself in this process. And so I've discovered that sometimes for me, it is healthier. It is more effective and more efficient for me to hang out by myself and just spend some time being okay with the fact that I might be going through a massive transformation. I might be like a snake shedding my skin in this process. And so, for all of you listening, I want to encourage you that nothing is ever really wrong, right? Nothing is ever really bad or a problem. It's just a difference of of what are you choosing to desire to cultivate in this process of waking yourself up to what you want? And in this process, it is extremely important to nurture yourself. It is extremely important to pay attention to your energy. It is extremely important to really look at what it is you truly desire. So, um, uh, hold on one second. Just making sure. Yep. Okay. Yeah. And so, my friends, um, yes, we are for the first time ever, we're taking live callers. So I'm just navigating the callers as we can. Okay. Train of thought back on track. So, this is this power of you of really getting clear on what your energy is, what you want your energy to be. And if you're intuitive, if you're sensitive, if you're a people pleaser, you might not really be clear. So, you might think that your energy is whatever makes other people happy. That's a clue that you actually need to work on receiving yourself, on cultivating the power of your energy. And so I'll give you an example from my own life. And this isn't right or wrong. This is just an example that what I thought I was supposed to be doing actually shifted. And I think a lot of people have experienced that shift when the world changed, right? And a few years ago, we were going uh, in our lives as normal, and the world completely shut down, which forced most of us to get clear on what our values are, what's important to us. And so prior to the world changing, I was planning on a world tour, going on tour for like 3 to 4 months, teaching in all these different countries. And, there is something that my soul loves more than anything, which is adventure. Going somewhere new, not knowing where I'm going, not knowing where I'm staying, maybe not like knowing anything and experiencing the world through new eyes. I just come alive. And so when I was able to teach in all of these different countries and meet all these different people and, make a difference in their lives, it nurtured me. But something that I didn't realize until very recently was this idea that my nervous system was probably a little bit more taxed than I had been willing to acknowledge. And even though I was having a blast and making a difference and connecting on this global scale, there was something in my world that was missing that I wasn't quite yet willing to admit to myself that something was off. I was like, "No, I'll just make it work. Nope, I'll just make it work. Nope, I'll just make it work." And I never stopped to consider, like, is this still working for me? And it wasn't until the world shut down that it gave me a really big gift to spend some time looking at, have my values changed? Have I shifted? Is the direction I'm going, is it changing? And it was like, yep. Okay, so now what next? And some of you, if you're listening and this resonates, you might be trying to force an outcome that the universe actually has other intentions for you. And so part of this is to go, okay, the power of my energy. What's the power of my energy? Oh, my energy can be. So the ways that you can get to this in a roundabout way, you can ask is, how's my nervous system doing? Do I feel balanced? Am I at peace with myself? Do I like who I am? Am I sleeping enough, right? I used to not value sleep. I'm like, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And then my body started to change and I started to change. And now I sleep a lot. And it has been really healing. It's something I look forward to. And I'm like, well, I'll get it done tomorrow. Whereas before, I would stay up till 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 in the morning, still working, thinking I got to get this done and I got to get this done and I got to get this done. And I was compromising my internal peace without knowing that that's what I was doing. And it wasn't until I started to sleep that I'm like, I love going to bed at 9 o'clock at night. I know that sounds ridiculous. And there are times where I stay up till 2. There are times where I pull all-nighters. When I'm writing books, and when I'm writing my books, I tend to stay up later or get up earlier. And, I'm not the one of those crazy people that has to be on a schedule, but I am willing to follow my rhythms. And those rhythms depend on what's valuable in my life right now. Right now, what's valuable in my life is sleeping, is taking care of my health, is being there for my son, is doing my part that I can in the world to make an impact. And everything is different every time. So, how you know whether or not you are cultivating and paying attention to the power of your energy depends on looking at, are you paying attention to what you value? Do you feel calm in your nervous system? Are you at peace? Or do you have a lot of anxiety? Do your mood swings feel quite up and down? Do you feel quite chaotic? Are you worried all the time? Those are signs that something in your life might need to shift. You might need some snake medicine. It might be time for a shift, and you might need to let go of something that you've been trying to push. Now, there are things and there are times where I actually need to push, not necessarily like I have to get this done. It's just like I know what I want to see in the world. I know what I want to create in the world. But the method or how or what might change along the way. And so sometimes I do need to push. The going might get tough. I might get a lot of rejections, right? And so there's never a right or wrong way to go about harnessing the power of your energy, but there are some great barometers for you to filter through to see if you're on track, to see if you're paying attention. And one of those things is, how's your energy? How do you feel about yourself? Right? Do you feel balanced? Are you taking care of yourself? Right? How's your anxiety? Are you nervous? Do you feel calm? Are you at peace? Do you feel like you're in a good space with yourself? How are your relationships? Do you feel like you're walking on eggshells? Are you trying to people please? All of these things are really valuable in that. And so there is no right or wrong way, but you all want to look at, what are you doing something for? Are you doing it for result? It's going to bring you anxiety. But if you start to get clear on what you value, what's fun for you, what you enjoy, what creates more in your life, and then you cultivate, are you at peace with your choices? Do you feel inspired? Are you happy doing what you do? Then chances are you are in sort of in the right direction. But if you're full of anxiety, if you're full of worry, if you're full of stress, perhaps it might be time to shift. So that's kind of all I got for you in this moment. We do have a live caller that we're probably going to take. So let's take a break, and we'll come back right after these friendly messages.
OMTimes TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Katherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no two experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to KatherineMcIntosh.com. KatherineMcIntosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Okay, so we are back and live, and I'm really excited. So, excuse me, when I first had the idea for this show, one of the things that really scared the crap out of me and inspired me was this idea of doing a radio show in which we take live callers and people can call in from anywhere in the world and ask a question, and I would sort of give them my intuitive download of something, and then they can take that information away. And I think this is our 15th show, and we finally have a live caller, and so we are gonna just dive right in and take that live caller. And this is our first time doing it, so bear with us as we do this, but it's pretty exciting. Cool. So Julia's on the line. Okay, I cannot hear Julia at the moment, so this is our first time doing it. So as we do this, and I tell this to everyone, is, I will do my best to just download information. People pay me, right, for my intuitive hits, pay me for lots of things, but I really um I really am excited, and I always tell people, please don't take what I say as truth. Filter it through what feels true to you. So we'll try this again. Julia, are you there? Let's see. So I cannot hear Julia. All right, so we're going to keep trying. We so appreciate you, Julia, for calling in, being here, and seeing what we can create. So we'll work out the logistics because this is something new, right? This is new for the radio show, new for us, new for me. And so we always like trying new things. Why not push the envelope, do what creates more? And so, yeah, it's pretty exciting. And so, for all of you out there, no matter where you are on your journey, I just want to encourage you to do the uncomfortable thing, the thing that might feel really freaky at first. There's a lot of different messages out there about, do you share your dreams with other people? And, my vote is kind of yes. If it scares the crap out of you, share it. Why? Because it's going to shift your energy to share it. And the more people you share it with, the more comfortable you get saying it to the universe, which allows you, right, to recalibrate your energy, to get comfortable doing it. And so it's always about doing the uncomfortable. And so this might be new for us and it might be uncomfortable. Guess what? We get to try and try and try again. And isn't that the point of life? Babies fall hundreds, if not thousands of times before they start walking. And even when they start walking, they fall. That doesn't discourage them from walking and from continuing to try. So if only adults would be more like babies and just have this point of view of like, well, I'm going to keep trying it until I get it right, until I get where I want to go. And so please don't be afraid to continue to try doing whatever it is that you desire to do. But I will tell you, recently in my journey lately, I've had all these ahas, and this phase of life. And it isn't about making any phase right or wrong. This is just looking at, I look back in my 20s, and if I knew what I know now, I would have made really different choices. I don't regret those choices. I made them with the best sort of information that I had available, but I didn't think very highly of myself back then. And now I am learning, and especially spending the last year plus being like this lone wolf and hibernating. It wasn't that I didn't have friends and I didn't hang out, but it was like I just really had a different desire to shift something major in my life and get really clear, make sure that I fired myself from people pleasing, make sure that I changed where I was functioning from, and really looked at seeing if we could do something different. So I want to encourage you all to make that choice that maybe you've been hesitating to make, to take a leap of faith in yourself. Take that trip, say yes to that date, say yes to a new business adventure, say yes to traveling across the world, whatever it is for you. Start being bold in your choices for you, and you never know what might show up. So we're just double checking as we navigate. See if we can hear Julia and get her on again. Let's see. Julia, are you there? I know she's there, but we can't hear, or I can't hear her. Oh, the joy, the joy. So I'll continue talking, and Julia, if you can come on or you do hear me, keep talking until I hear you, and we'll see if we can get this situated. Unless it's on my end, but I'm not sure what to do different. So yeah. Okay, she's gonna try next week. Bummer. Okay, well, this is a heads up for all of you to feel free to call in, because guess what? We're trying something new. And it definitely, to say like, hey, I'm gonna take live callers on a radio show, it definitely was out of my comfort zone, because it's like, well, who's gonna call in, and is it gonna make a difference, and will it help? But I really think it will. So Julia, thank you for your courage and being the first to try to make sure this works. Please don't give up. Please come back next week, because I would love to contribute to you in any way that I can. And that's the thing, you guys, is please, in this idea and this topic of receiving, right? Sometimes it's really important to, oh, cool, he figured it out. So Julia, if you're still listening, yeah, he figured it out, and you can call back. So we can try today, which is really cool. And so, you guys, please don't be afraid to screw up, to mess up, because really, if you gain more energy and more information and have more fun along the way, this isn't about a straight shot to, oh my gosh, to a perfect journey. This is about, like, really just going for it and having fun along the way. So Julia, if you are still listening, call back in. He figured it out, and then we'll be able to answer any question you have. But in the meantime, something that's been in my world for the last 20 years, and I think I talked about it on the last radio show, is today actually was the launch of a brand new course called the Intuitive Energy Course. And it's a course for people who are coaches, therapists, yoga practitioners, yoga teachers, even teachers. It's also for people who have been immersed in energy work or massage therapy or Reiki or acupuncture. And I wanted to teach people how to cultivate and understand how they work with awareness, and how, when they allow themselves to look at the way that energy comes in, that they can then begin to translate. And I talked about this recently in something I did, which is like, a lot of times we're trying to translate an energy with words, right? We're trying to get it right. But sometimes the best way to play with energy, to shift energy, is just to like name what it is. So let's say you feel something, but you don't have words for it. You can't put, but you could put a sound to it. You could put a color to it. You could identify how that energy makes you feel. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're energizing the energy. So, because sometimes translating energy can actually throw us off course, right? That's like going to the doctor and the doctor goes, "Oh, you have this in your lungs and this in your kidneys and this in your diaphragm and this in your trachea, so you have this diagnosis." And then you walk out of the doctor's office with what you think is a clear sort of prescription or indication of what's going on with you. And then you spend part of your life, half your life, all of your life working on this diagnosis. But guess what? The diagnosis doesn't make you feel lighter. You don't get better. All of a sudden, you're on this lifelong trajectory of trying to fix this diagnosis. But here's the truth: if it's not changing, it's not the right diagnosis. And so sometimes with energy, we can get caught up in identifying something as fear, but it not isn't actually fear. We can get caught up in identifying something as, a possibility or an investment strategy, and it might not be the truth if it doesn't improve the quality of our life. And so this is true for almost anything in our lives, is to not be so quick to try to label something, but instead get curious about it, right? When you go on a first date with someone, you're not like, "Oh, you're this. I'm going to label you as this." No, getting to know a friend, getting to know an acquaintance, getting to know a business like partner or a business relationship or colleague. You don't define them once. And if you do, you might want to look around your life and see if you're actually happy. Right? I had one long time ago, I was in real estate and I was basically the executive assistant of a team that was doing $65 million in real estate a year. And in the Midwest, that's a lot of money. Now I live in Aspen, and $65 million, you could sell one home a year, and that would be your sales. So it's a little bit of a different graph. But at that time, $65 million in real estate, that was a lot of homes. And that was a lot of work, but it was also like a great achievement. And I remember once we brought in a strategist, sort of a PR person or a HR person to work with us. It was a consultant, and this person ended up being a really good friend of mine. And she sat me down and she said, "Can I be frank with you?" And I was like, "Yes." She goes, "Doesn't seem like you're being yourself." She's like, "Everything out of your mouth is negative." And I was like, "Oh my God." By osmosis, was working in an office with a woman who was quite negative, and we would take lunch breaks together and we'd spend all our days in the same little office. Well, all of a sudden, I'm taking on her energy and realize I'm not so happy. So some of you are taking on other people's ideas and identities of what is going on with you or what you think is going on with you. And here's a little clue: if it doesn't change, that's not actually what's going on with you. So it's really important when it comes to energy to not be so quick to name what it is. Oh, it's fear. Oh, I don't feel comfortable. Oh, I'm afraid. Oh, I can't. Oh, I might get heartburn, like, and I'm over exaggerating and not trying to make fun of anyone, but I do make fun of myself when I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I totally do that," with different things in my life. And so this is your invitation: when next time you're it's sitting in the idea of something or the future of something or the possibility of something, instead of being so quick to label what it is, to define it so you can categorize it, don't be so quick to define it. Like a first date, like getting to know someone. Don't judge a book by its cover, and certainly don't judge a book by reading the first 3 pages and assume you know whether or not you're gonna like the book. There are some books where I'm, like, not sure I'm gonna like that book, and then I read it, and I get halfway in, and I'm like, crying and laughing and having all these ahas and journaling on the side, and some books I'll read a couple chapters, some all the way through, some I skip through. So, don't judge anything based on what you're gonna, like, categorize it in. Instead, take a step back and see what's there for you, because you never know. Energy can surprise you. You can surprise you. Your body is far more capable of going the distance, and your mind is actually far more capable of going the distance and doing challenging things far more than you know. I'm not kidding, far more than you know. I think I was watching, Jesse Itzler, and he was working with David Goggins, and he was talking about, I think it was the first time that he encountered him. And David said, "Do as many, do pull-ups," and Jesse did 8. He's like, "Okay, you're gonna do that again." And I guess I might be butchering the story, so I apologize. And he did like 4. And then he goes, "Do it again." He did like 1. And he got done. He's like, "Okay, are we done for the day?" David said, "Not until you do 200 more." He's like, "You mean like right now?" He goes, "Until you're done." And what it did is it forced him to go beyond his limited mind, to not define what he was capable of doing, to not limit what he was capable of doing, but to unlimit. And here is my personal point of view, is that I believe that all of us have this incredible unlimited ability to be intuitive, to read energy, to perceive things, but sometimes we are way too quick to try to categorize and judge and label and define, and that gets in our way of us being able to go after the life of our dreams. Because what is inside of you can't be taught, can't be bought, can't be labeled, it can't be defined. It has no bounds. And when you come to terms with the idea that you might be the most incredible person you've ever met. I want to say that again, that you might be the most incredible person you've ever met. You might be the most incredible person this world has ever met, but the world might not ever know it if you don't give yourself permission to try to be that version of yourself. And I don't mean fake it. I don't mean try to play a role. I mean down to your core, in your bones, get to be the person that you knew you were always meant to be. And sometimes that path, you're not going to have a lot of fans. You might have a lot of executioners or judgers or whatever it is, but that's how you know that you're on the right path. Like my son, he has big, audacious dreams, and he would love to play soccer in front of the world. And he was recently on the playground at school during recess, and some of the kids started making fun of him for being a ball hog. He scored 2 goals, and he was kind of down on himself. He's like, "Mom, they don't really like me. I don't think anyone cares about me." And I said, "Do they have the same dreams as you do?" And he's like, "No, Mom." I said, "Does anyone in your school, in your grade that you know of, do they have the same dream?" He's like, "Not in my grade." And I said, "So does it matter what they think about you? He goes, well, it kind of hurts my feelings. And I said, well, you said you want to be the best in the world, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, if you look at the people that you admire that are the best in the world at what they do they have a lot of people who kind of make fun of them or judge them or talk bad about them? He's like, yep. I said, then you're on the right track. It's not your job to pay attention to people who don't have the same dreams as you do. It really isn't. And I hope you all are listening. It is not your job to pay attention to the people that have the same dreams as you, because usually the people who are judging you or talking bad about you, they're not where you want to go. In fact, they're on the sidelines, right? They're too busy, comparing, contrasting, judging. And so if you have people who aren't, who are talking smack about you, what you want to do is pat yourself on the back and know that you're in the right direction and, get some tougher skin. People talk a lot of crap about the people who are at the top, but they're not willing to do what the people at the top are willing to do. And so the reason why I'm saying that is what you are capable of, your energy inside of you. No one can do what you can do. No one can go where you can go. But you have to start believing that and not depend on experts or gurus or teachers or the world to recognize that. You have to do it. Saw this post the other day about, there's some really amazing people, but they're just not yet in the right environment. So keep growing, keep putting yourself in the right environment, keep receiving the idea that you are exactly where you need to be. But guess what? Start asking for help, because the more you're willing to ask for help, the more when you're willing to ask what you want from the universe. Now, I don't mean help from like, I'm a victim help. I mean like, wow, hey, this is what I want. This is what I need help with. This is where I'm stuck. Start being really clear with yourself of where you could use some contribution, and then start asking for it. And it'll show up in the strangest ways from the strangest people that you weren't expecting. And that's how you know that you're on the right track. And so if you're going to practice receiving, it's about like, are you willing to up who you're willing to have in your life? Right. And so back on the table last week when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm hanging out with the people that are abusing me. I need to change who I'm willing to hang out with. I need to change who I let into my world. In the last few years, I've been doing that. And it keeps changing. And sometimes that road, it's not that it's lonely. It's actually been more peaceful than I've ever experienced in my life. But get clear on what's important to you, because the power of your energy, no one can do what you do. And, as I sort of venture out on this new journey, I finally, for the first time ever in my life, am starting to teach energy work in the way that I know how to teach it. And it doesn't have to do with a technique. It has to do with you empowering you how to play with energy. So instead of being so quick to try to translate it, instead of being so quick to try to label it or judge it or put it in a category or define it, it's about sitting with it so that it can begin to contribute to you, so that it can begin to evolve and grow. So if you're interested check out the website. That's where the book is. I have tons of free videos and content and resources. So if you haven't checked out the website, please feel free to go see it at katherinemcintosh.com. And in the meantime, to all of you out there who have been listening, to all of you, to Julia who called in today, thank you for taking the courage. And I hope that you call in next week, as I would love to connect and contribute and answer any question you have. And for all of you out there, if this show speaks to you and there's something in the quality of this, please share it with others. And if you're listening and you're like, oh, I'd like to be a guest on her show, reach out and we'll see what we can do. So thank you for being here. As always, continue to pay attention to your truth, to your energy, because you never know what you're capable of creating until you get out of your own way and you just dig deep within and discover what is truly possible. So until next time, my friends, stay awesome, and I can't wait to connect with you next time.
Katherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.